Hello everybody, how are you guys doing today? So in this video we're going to be talking about how you guys can be making platinum through Baro Ki'teer, whatever it is that he has that he's brought. So Baro comes once every 2 weeks. Once every 2 weeks, and he's here for about 2 days. He'll come in like a Friday in the morning and he'll leave by Sunday morning. So you'll have 2 full days to get to Baro. He winds up at a relay and it's marked by this symbol right here. You'll actually be able to see it a day early before he shows up. So you'll kind of have an idea. If it's like a Thursday, you'll see this showing up on Thursday night before he shows up on Friday. But we're looking for this symbol because we know Baro is there. Gonna pick any one of these relays and we're gonna head out there and we're gonna see what Baro has. It's important for you guys to know that it is not predictable per se what Baro is going to wind up having when he shows up, because he has an enormous library, like it's an enormous stock, but he only brings a little bit every time he comes around. So every couple of weeks you'll have a shot at getting getting the ability to buy things out of his inventory, but it's not going to be the full inventory unless of course you guys know about Tennokan and the Baro for Tennokan, but that's going to cost actual money to do that. So once a year, really quick, DE has a thing where they call it I don't know if they call it BaroCon or whatever. We'll call it BaroCon just for the sake of this video. But Baro shows up with his entire stock for a week when Tennokan happens. It usually is around July every year. But you could spend 20 bucks and you could have full access to all of Baro's stuff. When you're going to visit Baro, before you do that, you're going to need to have ducats in game, and you get those by basically this console right here. Relays have these consoles here. You want to find one in a relay. Usually it's not too far away from wherever Baro is, which he's right up there. So we're going to come over here and we're going to look at what can we give. Like I can give any of these things right here. All 11 of those, right? That's how many ducats I'd get out of it. These are worth 100 ducats a pop. If we hover over it, it tells us 100 ducats a pop, 100. Oh, these are by sell price. Okay, let's do it by name. So we got 145, 15 ducats, and you can sell as many or as little as you want, but this will gain you ducats right here. Now, what do I typically recommend? And if you're a newer player, what are you typically going to have? You're probably going to more than likely have junk. Now, what is prime junk? Prime junk is something that you will always be farmable in the game. It's not, they're like Warframes and weapons that Warframes come with. Typically, when they wind up in the game, they're only farmable for 18 months and then they get removed, and then they'll eventually come back, but they'll only be back for a short period of time. For the most part, as of making this video, that's how it stands, for the most part. So what you guys want to do is you want to look up things that are always in the game. They're always farmable. Things like Orthos Prime is one. Another one is Paris Prime is another one. You guys can do Lex. That's considered junk. You can do the Fang, that's considered junk. You'll probably wind up accumulating a lot of Bronco sets. Now, it's important not to get the Bronco or the Lex sets mixed up with their counterpart, which is the AK Bronco and the AK Lex. It has an AK in the beginning of them for the Bronco and the Lex. These are not junk. Don't sell these like they're junk. You just want to get rid of regular Bronco stuff right here. Other options you have are the Burstin Prime. You could also do the Bratton Prime or Brayton Prime, however, whatever fancy way you want to say it out. But these things are typically considered junk because they're always farmable. So you can sell those to get a bunch of ducats, and then you can come over here to check out what Baro has once you have your ducats. So what I recommend you guys do is look for things like mods, because the mods are tradable. I'm going to have to go through a little walkthrough about these primed mods with you guys in a second. But typically what we're looking for is we're looking for mods that are not primed at first. I'll get to that in a second. The other things you want to be aware of is something like this is tradable. An Orokin Tower scene, like a scene, is tradable. You know what's not tradable though? These things. Decorations are not tradable. The attachments are not tradable. Cosmetics are not tradable. The Ignis Wraith blueprint is tradable. I'm not sure actually if the Angstrom is tradable, but here, a weapon skin. If it says skin, it is not tradable. So make sure you guys are picking the right things. Relics, yes, are tradable. Ignis Wraith, yes, is tradable. Mods, yes, they're tradable. Scenes, yes, they're tradable. So he typically brings stuff like this around every couple of weeks when he comes. Even though there'll be different mods, he usually always has mods. So keep that in mind. Now, for Sweeping Serration, yes, you can sell this and make platinum. For this, yes, you can sell this. I'll get into why these are not the things you want to specifically get, because this is going to cost you 400 ducats to get this, okay? And for the amount of plat that you're going to make off of an unranked version, selling one of this is probably around 50 plat, not because that's what it should be sold for. Obviously, you spent all these ducats, you burned them on this, and then people are gonna what? Give you 50 plat for this. That's what the average is. I don't recommend selling these for that reason, number one, because you're kind of ripping yourself off when you're selling primed mods. The second reason I don't recommend doing this is because who typically needs primed mods? Usually newer players are the ones that are after it. Well, did you know that when you trade primed mods, the game requires the buyer to have 1,000,000 credits for the trade of a primed mod? DE did this intentionally because these mods are not meant for early game. Whenever you see primed mods in the game, they're typically meant for players that are intermediate to veteran players that are further along in the game, that have had 1,000,000 credits, you know, and maybe even more. Like, I'm sitting on 123 million credits. So, like, I'm suited for these mods, but a brand new player might not be. So keep that in mind when you're buying these. They're a pain in the butt to sell. You're kind of cucking yourself on price, and finding a buyer, because typically, like I said, people that want these more than anyone else don't typically have 1,000,000 credits sitting around. So that makes it even harder to find a buyer for these things too. Ultimately, they're a pain. I don't recommend selling these unless, you know, you're going to make really good platinum off of it. For the most part, I would look for whatever else Baro has that's not a primed mod. Maybe collect some of those and sell them. Baro also brings around electric mods. There's a couple of electric mods, I believe, for pistol and melee that are not farmable in the game, and the only way to get them is through Baro, at least currently anyway. So if you see an electric mod for pistols or an electric mod for melees, those are pretty good to sell. And this is also another side note too. If you guys have watched my video on how to really maximize your platinum, which typically comes down to you like waiting a while for whatever it is that you bought. Like, let's say you buy a Warframe while it was, you know, farmable. Then you wait for like 6 months to a year when it's not farmable and you sell it then. You typically can double or triple the price of what you paid for it when you're selling it 6 months to a year later. Well, with Baro, what's important to know with him is his inventory of stock that he brings around, it's large and it's never the same thing every couple of weeks, but it does eventually come back around. I'd say anywhere between 4 and 6 months. He'll wind up whatever he has right now. We probably won't see these mods again for another 4 to 6 months that he'll come back with it. So if you do stock up on things from Baro, it would be more efficient for you to wait a couple of months before you try to sell them, because you'll be able to sell them for higher. Right now that Baro's here, a lot of people are buying these and then they go right to trade chat and they try to sell it, which ultimately drives the price down. But the more time that goes by, the more months, the more weeks that pass, and the less people there are that are trying to push this today, the higher in price it's going to start to climb. So my best advice and best strategy for you guys making platinum off of Baro mods is to wait a few weeks to a couple of months before you try to sell any of the things that you bought from Baro. Again, I understand some of you have no patience. I don't mean that in a bad way. And some of you just have to make plat immediately for whatever mystical emergency that you have in game. If that's the case, then go for it. You could still make platinum selling them today, but just know that this is costing you ducats here, which ultimately costed you work and farming parts out. So it's kind of eating into, you know, the amount of value that you really should be getting out of it. You can make quick plat, but you could make more plat if you had patience, is all I'm saying. So for the most part, that about wraps up how Baro works and how you guys can get platinum from Baro. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, I'm live every single day on Twitch. Feel free to stop by, ask anything you'd like. Also on my Twitch channel, you guys can earn weapons, warframes, and mods absolutely free. Stop by and ask me about that when you come into my channel. All that being said, if you guys found this video helpful, please leave a like, be sure to subscribe, and comment in the description what your favorite Baro accessory or whatever it is. Either way, I love your faces. Thank you for hanging out. If I don't see you guys in the next one, I'll see you on my Twitch channel. Laters.